because of how big of a cultural phenomenon the first Frozen was, and that this is a Disney movie, the most profitable film company ever, I don't think it's unfair or unrealistic of me to have high expectations for this. And upon viewing it, it's really just okay. To be honest, there isn't even a lot to say about this. Like, it's not really anything special or anything to write home about. It's really just your average, inoffensive kids movie. It's like white noise in the background or something. Okay, that's me being a bit harsh. There are some praiseworthy aspects of the film. It's animated fairly well, which is expected for a movie like this, but I can't tell that much of a difference between this and the first one. The first Frozen wasn't groundbreaking in terms of animation, but they did pull off a lot of really impressive snow effects. Frozen 2 still looks good, especially in a lot of the musical numbers, but aside from a few other instances, there's nothing all too visually interesting happening. The musical numbers in here are good for the most part, and some of them have a good bit of humor thrown in them, but if anything holds them back, it's that they aren't very memorable or iconic, especially in comparison to the first one. I mean, I remember when and why they sang, but it's the actual lyrics that are pretty forgettable. On their own, they're good, but like I said, the songs themselves, they're just not very memorable. The first one's songs get stuck in my head all the time. These will not. The humor in this is very hit or miss. There are some genuinely very funny moments in this. And I like how the film is a little bit fan conscious of the first one, as there are a few brief jabs at it, and thankfully they don't overstay their welcome, as the whole movie could have easily just been full of annoying scenes where they say, "Hey, remember this from the first Frozen? Remember this? Eh? Eh?" Speaking of annoyances though, let's talk about Olaf. I only found him kind of funny when he was able to morph his body into different shapes, but that aside, he was pretty unbearable. He became everything I was afraid he was going to be in the first one, that being an annoying little sidekick that doesn't shut up and has to comment on everything. He dies in this, and I felt nothing but relief, even though I knew they were going to predictably bring him back later. That word, predictable, that's how I would describe just about the rest of the plot and characters in this. Predictable. Anything the movie sets up, you see coming a mile away, like, oh, I wonder who was the girl that saved Anna and Elsa's dad. Of course it was their mom. Who else would it be? Also, the pillars of the central conflict, or conflicts in this, feel forced or just aren't that compelling. They try to expand upon the Frozen mythology and lore by introducing the concept of there being nature element spirits, and while it is somewhat interesting, they don't do anything that cool or unique with it. It also bothers me that Elsa becomes the new fifth nature spirit, and while it makes sense, as she has ice powers, there's also a water spirit, and it's like, you can't have both, come on. Remember how the original Bionicle had ice and water as different elements, as well as earth and stone? Like, it's the same thing, it's just in a different state of matter. While there are a bunch of whatever moments in this, the film became truly great during the end of the second, beginning of the third act, in which Elsa goes to that island. It's visually gorgeous, really emotional, and had a fantastic musical number. Granted, I don't remember the lyrics, but it was easily the highlight of the film, and I wish the rest of it was like this. There are other parts that did manage to capture some genuine emotional moments, such as Anna and Elsa finding the ship their parents died in. That was done very well. However, the film just needed more moments like these because a lot of it just feels like filler. The new characters they introduced aren't all that interesting, and even some of the old ones, like Anna and Kristoff, they weren't given that much to do, and what they are given is just mediocre, not that important to the overall plot, which is already kind of meh. Its biggest issue is that it feels like it's building up to some huge revelation that will change everything, and it's really nothing. Aside from a few shining moments, there's really nothing great about this, and while it does have its annoying bits, it never becomes bad by any means. It's just like I said, your average middle of the road animated family film, nothing else at all. Oh well, maybe they'll get it right with Frozen 3.